Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we have some huge reveals for Dragonstorm. Today was the big, reveal stream, essentially showing a bunch of different stuff. There is reveals from basically everywhere. We've got all the commanders, we've got some insane reprints and more. Dragonstorm pre-release starts April 4th and the reveals are starting today. Keep in mind that, I'm going to be covering as much as possible of it, and just let me know what you guys want me to cover in reveal season, because this is kind of new-ish to me and stuff. So let's go through each thing. First of all, starting with the new mechanics. So these are the new mechanics essentially. So we've got mobilize, which is whenever this creature attacks, create X tapped and attacking 1/1 red creature tokens, and then they get sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step, which I forgot to write down there. We've got omen, which is essentially adventures. So they're creatures with an instant or sorcery attached to them. However, when you cast that adventure this time, instead of it getting exiled and then you can cast it later on, instead it just gets shuffled back into your deck. I don't know. That's a very interesting one. I think that's kind of not as strong as adventures, unfortunately, depending on what you're wanting, but it could potentially mean some stronger effects on the omens as well. We've got harmonize, which is you can cast it from your graveyard, and when you cast it, you can tap a creature you control to reduce its cost by X, where X is that creature's power, and then you exile that spell. So, you cast it. It's kind of like a flashback, essentially, except you can reduce the cost of it. There's Endure, which is put X +1/+1 counters on this creature, or create an X white spirit creature token. So it'll be like a triggered ability. So it'll be like, whenever you do this, Endure X, or whenever you do that, Endure X, etc. We've got Renew, which is you pay a cost, so it's an activated ability. You pay a cost, and then you exile it from your graveyard to put counters on a creature. Now, that's not necessarily always, +1/+1 counters. There's one that's like, death touch and flying or something like that. Just they're all always to do with counters and putting counters on a creature out on the battlefield, but it's not necessarily always +1 counters. We've got Behold, which is you choose a dragon you control when you're doing it. So it would be like, do this. Whenever you do this, you can Behold. If you do, get an extra ability, kind of like, the reveal cards, essentially. You can choose a dragon you control to behold it, be like, hey, look at my dragon, or reveal one from your hand as well. And then finally, we've got Flurry here, which is whenever you cast your second spell each turn, XYZ. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, do this or do that, etc. It's obviously a triggered ability there too. So let's get into the new ones. First of all, this one here is insane. This is insane, and someone's going to figure out how to do this repeatedly. This is All Out Assault. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and Death Touch. Fine. When this enchantment enters, if it's your main phase, keep in mind that's if it's your main phase. It doesn't matter if it's your first main phase, second main phase, 50th main phase. As long as it's your main phase, there is an additional combat after this, followed by an additional main phase. When you next attack this turn, untap each creature you control. This is repeatable. Flicker it. You just flicker it. It exiles, then comes back in. Enters, boom, additional combat. Now, you finish that combat, you go back to a main phase. You could flicker it again. Or you could, have some kind of flicker during combat, or, where it enters during the next main phase. I don't think there is something that does that, but there's ways to be able to get around this, to just repeatedly use this. It's insane. We've got Elspeth Stormslayer. So she is a token doubler, as well as she creates tokens herself, like kind of a callback to her other one that creates the 3 tokens. And then she can also put +1s on each creature you control, and they gain flying. Or her -3, destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. She can also use this off the bat. So it's not really an ultimate or anything like that. Like, it's not a big kind of cost. It's repeatable. You can do this multiple times because you're going to be able to get to 6 easily. But the token doubling, that's the most important part here. Annoyingly, obviously, she's a planeswalker, which means she can get destroyed. But if you grab her and then you put on like a, Giada's Gift, the Luxia, Giada's Gift or something, turn her into a creature. Oh, wow. That's going to be pretty bonkers to have a token doubler as a creature. We've got Teema Battlecryer. So this also has a bundle promo as the special art over here. During your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Obviously, Team is going to care about big creatures. This cares about big creatures. We've got 3 of the new Dragonstorms. So we've got this one here from the promo pack, and then 2 other ones. They all have, whenever a dragon enters, you can return it to their owner's hand, return the enchantment to its owner's hand. But they all do different things. So one is, a ramp spell. We've got Roiling Dragonstorm here. Whenever it enters, draw 2 cards and discard a card. And this one here, whenever it enters, each opponent loses 2 life. You gain 2 life, and then Surveil 2. So they'll all do basically very similar things. They all look to be monocolored, and they all have whenever a dragon enters, return it to its hand. So that way you can cast it again. We've got Channel Dragonfire here with Harmonize on it, which is, as I said before, the Harmonize was the one that you can cast it from your spell and then exile it. Just, deal 2 damage to any target. Pretty small kind of lightning bolt with a flashback attached to it. I got Strategic Betrayal. Target opponent exiles a creature they control and their graveyard. That is a very, very interesting mechanic. A Bajuka Bog kind of thing plus exiling a creature they control as well. So it's removal plus remove their graveyard. That's pretty nuts, depending on what deck you're running it with. We've got Devoted Duelist here. It has Flurry. As I said before, Flurry is whenever you cast your second spell. Keep in mind that obviously that's only going to trigger once per turn. But deals 1 damage to each opponent. That's a really interesting kind of little goblin, kind of like a goblin, like the spell slingery kind of ones that deal 1 damage to each person whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. This is just whenever you cast your second spell as well. So technically creatures will count for that too. Static Snare. I believe this is a reprint. I'm pretty sure we've had Static Snare before. And this one here is, we've had Static Snare before. I don't know, maybe not. Wow, I'm actually surprised Static Snare has not been used before. I'm probably thinking of something very similar. It's the one that's always around that is just, when it enters, exile a creature until this leaves. We've got these guys here. So these are all a cycle of devotees, one for each color that are basically kind of mana fixing, pay 1 that get a 1 color. And then they all have a different thing kind of attached to them. So you've got like Death Touch over here. You've got Defender. We've got whenever you cast your second spell, this creature gets +1/+1. And then return this creature from your graveyard to your hand. It's just kind of to help mana fix, essentially kind of a common that's just there for limited, which is good because, limited is a bit more frustrating when the fact that you've got like a 3-color set, because it's just more annoying to kind of build it with 40 cards and not being able to have guaranteed lands and stuff. We've got Bloom Vine Regent, which is, I don't know, I hate this thing. I hate the color of it. Interesting, there's 2 different versions of the borderless for it. There's one that's kind of more zoomed in and one that's more zoomed out. That kind of reminds me of the creepy monster versions in Duskmourn, except they both have the same number, like the same entry number thing that I can't think of the name of, like the collection number. We've also got the normal version of it. Interesting ramp. Just look for 2 basic forests, reveal them, put 1 onto your land, onto the hand, 1 onto the battlefield tapped, and then 1 into your hand. And then it's also got the additional part of where you can get the life whenever a dragon enters. Boulder Born Dragon here. Whenever this creature attacks, fail 1, boom. Flying Vigilance, boom. There is going to be some colorless stuff in here, obviously, because we've got like Ugin and stuff coming back. So there's a few different colorless cards, as well as a special promo that we'll talk about later. We've got Tevel, Arbiter of Virtue, and this is, my brother called dibs as soon as he saw this, because it gives all spells you cast Delve. Now, you do have the downside there of whenever you cast a spell, you lose life equals to its mana value, but giving all spells Delve is crazy. You want to obviously self-mill a lot here, and then, you can cast spells a lot cheaper because you can just exile cards from your graveyard that you don't need. Flying Lifelink too attached to this. So this is a special event promo. They didn't reveal where it's coming from or anything except for the fact that it was going to be from WPNs. And it's just a special event promo of a Waste with Ugin's eye on it. And we'll talk about the full arts later on for the lands too. We've got the monuments coming back. I believe these are the original monuments. Actually, no, the other ones. The other ones weren't monuments, were they? So these are new as well. They have, whenever it enters, search your library for a basic of whatever the 3 colors are, and then you can sack them all to do different things. They all create different tokens. You've got like the Timo one creating an elephant. You've got the Jesco one creating some birds with flying, create some zombie druids, create some warriors, and then also create some a spirit that has tough XX, where X is the greatest toughness among creatures you control. The Abzan one actually looks very good. I like the Abzan one a lot. The Mardu one I can kind of pass. It is creating 3 tokens, but it's for cost of 5, which isn't great. Sultai creates 2 zombies. The Teamer one creates a big elephant, but still, like, 6 to sack it is not great. Jesco one creates 2 birds with flying, which, again, not great. I think the Abzan one's the only one that I could see getting a lot of use otherwise. They are going to help mana fix you, though, in limited. We've got Purging Stormbroom here. Again, this is the Omen where you cast it and then it gets shuffled into your library, or you can cast it as a creature. You can essentially choose it. It's a modal spell, an instant or sorcery tacked onto, like an instant or sorcery modal tacked onto a creature. So this is +2/+2 lifelink and hexproof to a creature, or you could play the creature and then you can remove all counters from up to 1 creature. Marshal of the Lost, whenever you attack, target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. This one is interesting that it is an Abzan creature, because when I'm thinking of going wide and stuff, I'm thinking more Mardu. However, you can obviously run this in a Mardu deck as well. It's just the art is Abzan realistically, and I guess the name's kind of Abzan too. We've got Reigning Victor here, Mobilize 1, and then we've also got when this creature enters, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until end of turn. So you've got that Mobilize, which is nice. The buff's not hugely great, unfortunately, because it has flash. They also have this up here, which is basically like the colorless / whatever mana, which is going to be good again for limited, where you've got, you can pay 2 colorless, or you can pay the red. So if you haven't got the colors that you need, you can just play, 2 of whatever else. We've got Yathan Tomb Guard here. Menace, whenever a creature you control with a counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. That's really nice. I like that. Yeah, there's a lot of uses for that. Like, for example, I was thinking of building the, what's her face? The Black Rose. Yeah, Marchesa of the Black Rose. That would go great with that. Salt Road Pack Beast costs 1 less for each creature you control, and then when it enters, draw a card. Pretty simple common. Ringing Strike Mastery. Obviously, that's a callback to the Singing Strike, I think it was, from the original. Yeah, Singing Bell Strike. When it enters, tap a creature, doesn't untap, and then it's got pay 5 untap that creature. That's slight nerf to the original one, which was 6 to untap. However, it also costs 1 less. We've got Sunset Strike Master, tap, add red, pay 2, and a red, tap, sacrifice it, deals 6 damage to a creature with flying. Not going to be useful very much elsewhere, but still a decent creature. Duty Beyond Death, as an additional cost, sacrifice a creature, and then creatures you control get indestructible, and then until end of turn, and then you put +1/+1 on each creature you control. That's a nice sacrifice. Get a nice benefit from it. Stalwart Successor, Menace, whenever 1 or more counters are put on a creature you control, if it's the first time counters have been put on that creature this turn, put a +1/+1 on that creature. Interesting that this is not similar to Danny Pink. So Danny Pink has essentially kind of like the original Nadu, where it was gives them the ability, so then you could flicker it and do it again. This is just a static thing, so that's not going to be able to be flickered and then put it back on, unfortunately. This is good. I like it. I think it's got use. It's interesting that it's whenever any counters go onto it, put a +1 onto that, not like, when any counters go onto it, put an additional one of that. So, if you give something a death touch counter or something, then you're going to be able to put a +1 onto it too. Watch of the Wayside, when it enters, target player mills 2, you gain 2 life. Boom. Summon Intimidator, when it enters, target creature can't block this turn. Yep. Pretty common. Seize Opportunity. Choose 1, exile the top 2 of your library. Until end of your next turn, you may play those cards. That's nice. Up to 2 target creatures get +2/+1 until end of turn. Pretty basic. It's going to be, a common that I don't think it's going to get a huge amount of use within Commander, but I do think that it is going to be a nice kind of budget card to put into your budget decks. Cruel Truth, Surveil 2, then draw 2, you lose 2 life. Surveil over top of Scry, which is what we've seen previously on this kind of card, is nice. It is more expensive though, unfortunately, so I doubt it gets too much use, but still a good card. Riverwalk Technique, choose 1, the owner of target non-land permanent puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library, or you can counter target non-creature spell. It's just a counter spell with, an additional mode on it. for more expensive. Not great. Jadecast Sentinel, pay 2, tap it, put target creature from, put target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. I think we've seen this cheaper, like this mechanic cheaper and not requiring tapping. I've got it within my Riversong deck, and it's insane in my Riversong deck. This is not going to see use in my Riversong deck. It does have the reach though, which is nice. Undergrowth Leopard. Pay 1, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's got Vigilance, which is nice, so you can attack with it. However, the fact that this isn't a tap ability as well is nice. So even if it does end up getting tapped down somehow, like vehicles or something like that, then you can still sacrifice it. Pay 1 and a green. Yeah, that's not too bad. Like, pay 2 and a green if you want to do it on the turn it comes out to destroy target artifact enchantment. It's not great. Get some attacks with it and then sack it later on. That's not too bad. We've got Aegis Sculptor here. It's got Flying Ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile 2 cards from your graveyard. If you do, put +1/+1 on this creature. In a Sultai deck, this is going to be good. I think this is going to be decent in a Sultai deck or something like that. It's not insane, but it's still worthwhile. And, getting more exile triggers for the stuff like the ones that are like whenever cards leave your graveyard and stuff is good. Alongside Stealth Mill, it's not going to be bad, I don't think. We've got Rescue Leopard. When this creature becomes tapped, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. Just a nice, not looting, rummaging, I think it's called, effect on a common. It's going to be finding use in limited, but I don't think beyond that. Bearer of Glory. During your turn, this creature has first strike. Pay 4 and a white. Keep in mind, you can do this infinite amount of times if you've got mana. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Not insanely great, but still not too bad. We've got Rite of Renewal. Return up to 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Target player shuffles up to 4 target cards from their graveyard into their library. Exile it. So in a self-mill deck, I think this isn't too bad if you're choosing yourself for the target player. I think that's not too bad. Or if you're using it as like a hate piece against someone else to shuffle like their win cons that they put into the graveyard back into their deck, that's not too bad. I think that one's not awful. I think it's good. It's a bit annoying that it exiles itself, but still. I guess it'd be like you'd be able to infinitely switch it around with certain combos and stuff otherwise. Gurmog Night Watch. When it enters, look at the top 3 of your library, put 1 on the top of your library, and then put the rest into your graveyard. Not a great effect, but it's a good effect, but I think that we've seen better versions of this where it like actually puts it into your hand, like the Brainstorm effect puts it into your hand. The others do go back to the top, but there's other ones that look at the top 3, put 1 on the top of your deck, 1 on the bottom of your deck, 1 into your hand, or 1 into the graveyard, 1 into the top, 1 into your hand. Yeah. So we've also got the special guests. So these are really nice. So we've got the special guests for the, I think they said the enemy color fetch lands. So we've got Scalding Tarn here. We've got Misty Rainforest. They've also got this up here, which is exclusive to the collector boosters from memory. And it's like a dragon scale effect. So a dragon scale foiling effect. And then we've got the Ultimatum Cycle from Ikoria getting reprinted here as well. But that's not all of the crazy reprints. Before we show you those though, if you guys want to support the channel, become a member. It's pretty cheap. You're going to get early access to some videos. You're going to get, members only perks and stuff. There's members only videos that I'm going to start doing more of soon. I've been flat out, but we're going to start doing a whole bunch of those more soon. And you also get to see your name down here on the actual homepage of our channel. You can also go over, grab yourself a game mat from Quokka mouse pads. They are amazing. I use mine myself. I've got a Karlak one and I've got a Gambit one, and both of them are absolutely amazing. They're really nice quality too. And the links to those are going to be down in the comments. So this is the insane reprint. Craterhoof Behemoth getting reprinted into standard is bonkers. So there's an alternate art for this one over here, which is, I think they called it the clan arts or something. So you can see like the team of colors throughout here. But this is crazy. I love the art of this though. I absolutely love that they're taking creatures from other worlds or cards that are being printed in other worlds and then adapting them into whatever it is. I love that they do it with the commander decks. I love that they're doing it here as well. So yeah, new Craterhoof Behemoth getting reprinted is Crazy. We've got Caustic Exile here. So as an additional cost, behold a dragon or pay 1. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Digger Island, Durga. I don't know how to pronounce that. Island Dragon. We've got the Omen here. Tap a creature, draw a card. Or we've got Flying on Ward 2 on a big beast. Roamer's Routine. Search your library for a basic, and then put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. Or you've got the Harmonize here, which means you can pay it, make it cost less. When you cast it from your graveyard by tapping a creature you control that costs whatever. So if you tap a creature that's power is 4, then it's going to only cost you 1 green to cast this from your graveyard, which is pretty decent. Like, that's a nice kind of flashback to have, I think. It's on this card. We got Dusyat Earthcarver, an Abzan Elephant Druid. When it enters, endure 3, so you can either put 3+1s onto it or create a 3/3 white spirit creature token. Agent of Kotus has the renew mechanic, so pay 3 and a blue, exile it from your graveyard, put 2+1s onto target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. We've got Dragonback Lancer, flying and mobilize 1. So mobilize again is when you attack, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red creature token, sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. And there's ways to be able to bypass that. We've seen the Zerdo that already bypasses that too. Really nice. This is, my brother showed me this card and it is absolutely bonkers. I cannot wait to put this into my, my 10th Doctor deck. So Tiger Master Opportunist, Flurry. So Flurry is essentially keyworded whenever you cast your second spell to each turn. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it, then exile the spell you cast with 4 time counters on it. So you're going to cast this. This is your second spell. You cast the card, right? You cast it. Then you create a copy of it onto the battlefield or whatever. And then you exile the original one. So then in 4 turns, you're going to be able to cast that one. However, the one that is exiled, this part here is just whenever you cast your second spell each turn. So if it's exiled, then boom, you can exile it again and cast a copy. Oh boy, this is going to be absolutely crazy if you can manipulate the time counters. If you're not manipulating the time counters, it's not insanely great, especially because, you know, they're not on the battlefield at the time counters, they're in exile. But if you can manipulate those time counters with time travel and stuff, oh boy. We've got Voice of Victory, mobilize 2. Your opponents cast spells during your turn. That's just a, Grand Abolisher kind of style mechanic. Really, really good. We've got these planes. Sorry, not planes, lands. So these are the basic lands, the ones that you're going to find within your normal boosters, your normal play boosters. They're, I don't know, Dragon Dick lands. I don't know what they're called. But, you know, you've got like the Beholding the Dragons, like the dragons kind of flying over top and stuff. I only say that because they look very, like some of them look more kind of phallic and stuff, especially like this. Anyway, it's a whole different topic. But these look really nice. I really love them. They're really cool. And then we've got these ones. So these, unfortunately, are collector booster exclusive. So yeah, I'm actually a little bit disappointed about that. They're apparently collector booster exclusive, but they are really cool. I need them, like these 3 here, for my Miram deck. I think this one here looks the best because this still looks like an eye kind of thing, or the fire one does. The green one, I think, is the one that looks most odd, or maybe the swamp. I think the forest looks the most odd. I think this one here could still be an eye kind of thing. Like these ones are excusable as eyes. This is not so much. We've got Urena's Rebuff, return target creature to its owner's hand, and then it's got Harmonize on top of it. We've got Sidisi, Regent of the Maya. So this has the traditional kind of clan background that they're showing here. Tap it, sacrifice a creature you control with mana value X other than Sidisi, so you can't sacrifice Sidisi herself. Return target creature card with mana value X +1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. Oh. So you can only activate this as a sorcery. So you can only do it during your turn. But there is just so many different things that you're going to be able to do with this in like a kind of reverse pod, right? Like in a pod deck, oh boy, where you're sacrificing something, it goes into your graveyard. Then, you know, you sacrifice another thing, it's in your graveyard. Now you can use Sidisi to like bring things back. I can see this going pretty bonkers in like a pod deck where you've got like your pods kind of building up here, and then you bring in Sidisi, and then Sidisi can kind of build up as well to just return things from your graveyard. We've got Rediscover the Way. So this has the borderless treatment over here. And then this is the normal kind of treatment for the Jeskai Saga. So there's going to be a saga for each one, it looks like. Look at the top 3 of your library, put one into your hand and the rest onto the bottom. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell this turn, target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. So on this turn here, you want to be casting lots of non-creatures, obviously. And then this turn here is like slowly kind of shaping your hand. We've got Rakshar's Bargain. Look at the top 4 of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. That's a nice card. I like that one. Yeah, it's going to cost you 3 in like a normal Sultai deck. Otherwise, you know, you've got the option of paying 2 colors if you need to. Kazi Revenant. This is creepy as hell. So we've got the Buy-a-Box promo from over here. And this has pay 2 and a black, exile this from your graveyard, put a flying, death touch, and lifelink counter on target creature. This is going straight into my Indominus Rex deck. It is going to be insane in my Indominus Rex deck. Because even if, you know, I've chucked it, Indominus gets the flying, death touch, lifelink counters, I can either exile it from the graveyard to put it onto something else, or, you know, say somehow Indominus dies and then I bring him back out, then I can exile this to put those counters on if I didn't happen to be able to get those counters. This is really nice. I really love this card. It's really great, in my opinion. We've got Meringue River Regent here. Draw 3, discard a card, shuffle the card into your graveyard, into your deck, or when it enters, return up to 2 other target non-land permanents, so not even creatures, which is great, to their owner's hand. Not like a really nicely costed card, paid 6 for it, but still, I don't think it's a bad card. We've got Maelstrom of the Spirit Dragon. Tap, add colorless, tap, add 1 mana of any color, only spend it on dragons or omens, or pay 4, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a dragon, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. This will go into my Miram deck as well. Frost Cliff Siege. So this is one of the different sieges. All of them have this really, really nice like war table art. I love it. With this one here is choose Jeskai or Temur. The Jeskai side makes it so that whenever you deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's not too bad considering the price for it. Unfortunately, it is capped to 1 card per player that you damage. So in Commander, you can get up to 3 cards per turn. But still, it's not too bad in my opinion. I think that's not a badly costed like for getting this ability. And then we've got the Temur side, which is creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample and haste. And I love modal spells. Modal spells are one of my favorite things because they are so universal. Like you can just use them in so many different ways. It's really great. I love this one. We've got Equilibrium Adept. So it's a dog bunk with whenever this creature enters, exile the top card of your library. You can play it until the end of your next turn, which is really good. And it's also got Flurry, which is it gains double strike. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, gain double strike. Ureni the Song Unending has protection from white and black, which is really good. When it enters, it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures or planeswalkers of your opponent's control, where X is the number of lands you control. Ramp into this, get out, your 8 lands, boom, bring it in, and then you can just flicker it, right? Like, there's not a huge amount of flicker within green and red, but blue has a bunch of it. So you could just keep flickering this. I think that's going to be really cool. I really love it. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. I guess it's got protection from white and black, so you don't flicker it in white and black. We've got Nerev, Heart of the Storm, flying. If a creature you control that entered this turn will deal damage, it deals twice that much. Great for Blitz, but Blitz doesn't seem to be back, unfortunately. But you can go back and look at the original kind of, Tarkir stuff for Blitz. And overall, just a nice card, and I love this art for it. We've got Betor, Kin to All. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, draw a card. Then if it's 20 or greater, untap each creature you control. Then if it's 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life rounded up. So keep in mind, he is 7 of the initial 10, so you just need like one other creature to get that draw card. And then it can get pretty bonkers. Unfortunately, it's only at the beginning of your end step, not each end step. And they'll lose half, kind of have diminishing returns. At the start in Commander, it's potentially deal 20, but then it gets down to like, we're dealing 2 damage for a toughness of 40. But I guess you could really use this to kind of like just sandbag yourself, right? Like sandbag up, and then you're using that toughness to slowly kill people out, and you've got this like the walls there to defend yourself. Anafenza, Unyielding Lineage, Flash, First Strike, when deals combat, when another non-token creature you control dies, Anafenza endures 2, so you can either put 2 +1/+1s onto her or create a 2/2 white spirit token. Coaches the Fangkeeper, we saw this one yesterday, however we were slightly wrong with it. It's you can cast any number of spells with mana value X or less. So you're going to exile, let's say we pump him up to 5, right? We're going to exile, when he deals combat damage to someone, 5 combat damage, we're going to exile the top 5 of their library, and then we can cast anything that is mana value 5 or less from that. This is actually very, very interesting. I got rid of my Theft deck because I switched it into the combat damage trigger one with what's-his-face as the commander. I'm potentially going to bring it back with this. I love this. This is a really cool idea. We've got Ugin, Eye of the Storms. So we've got the actual Ugin here. Whenever you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. And then whenever you cast a color spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. So you get to exile things with this. He has +2, gain 3 life, draw a card. 0, add 3 mana. 3 colorless mana, or -11, search your library for any number of colorless non-lands, exile them, then shuffle. Until end of turn, you can cast them without paying their mana cost. There's also this over here. So this was a special treatment that they've got where it actually flips, which is very, very interesting. They only mention this about this one and like this treatment, but that means there is 2-sided cards in this set. And I don't know if that means anything beyond this treatment, but either way, you've got Ugin here, or you've got weird salamander goblin Ugin down here. And you can choose, do you want it's kind of like the cute or brute secret lair that they had. Do you want the cute side, or do you want the brute side? Or if this is the brute side, that's the cute side. Let me know which one you think. And then we've got the commanders. So we've got Felithor the Steadfast, which is the commander for the Abzan deck. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And then creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender. Pay 2, tap it, sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to its toughness, then discard cards equal to its power. So you could really cycle your hand really well with that. If something's like, she's a 0/5, you could draw 5 cards, discard 0 cards. Or, this is really, really great with walls. We've got Betor, unless you want the discard, I guess. We've got Betor, Ancestor's Voice, which we've already seen. At the beginning of your end step, put +1s onto something equal to the life you gained, and then return something from the graveyard equal to the life you lost. Kotus, Sibsing Champion. Kotus has, once during your turn, you can cast a creature from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its cost. And then whenever 1 or more creatures you control enter, if they entered from the graveyard or was cast, put 2 +1s onto him. And then we've got Tevel, which we've already seen, which is when he attacks, mill 3, put a land from your graveyard onto the battlefield. And then whenever cards leave your graveyard, create some black zombies. Zergo Stormrender. I love this art so much. So he's got Mobilizer, and then whenever a creature token you control leaves the battlefield, it says leaves as well. It doesn't need to necessarily be sacrificed. It can be exiled. Draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, each opponent loses 1 life. Interesting. Very interesting. So you could either draw cards if you sack it during combat, or you could wait until later and then sack itself, and then boom, they lose life. And then Nariv is the opposite, the other commander for that deck, which is he has, whenever he enters, create 2 red goblins, and then whenever he attacks, exile cards from the top of your library equal to the number of differently named tokens you control. During any turn you attacked with a commander, you can play the cards. Eshki Temer's Raw. I love her. She's everything people want in just simple decks. Just whenever you cast a creature, put a +1 onto her. Then if it's power 4 or greater, draw a card. Then if it's power 6 or greater, she deals damage equal to her power to each opponent. So minimum, if we cast something with 6 and she's just come out, that's going to deal 3 damage to each opponent for casting a spell. But she could get really, really big from that. And then we've got Urini, the Unwritten. Flying Trample, whenever it attacks or enters, look at the top 8 of your library, put a dragon card from them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Straight into Miriam. Miriam's going to love it. Just big dragons. We got, wait, was that when it enters or cast? No, that's cast, unfortunately. And then we've got Shiko and Narset Unified, Flurry, Vigilance, Flying, Vigilance, Flurry whenever you cast your second spell. Copy it if it targets a permanent or player, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you don't copy this spell, draw a card. So that's a kind of interesting, like, if you don't get to do that copy, then now you get to draw a card. If you do get to do the copy, then you get to choose new targets for it. Depending on what you're kind of doing, if you're like, buffing yourself up or using removal or something, it could be a really interesting way to use it. And then we've got Alicia Threefold Elsha Threefold Master, which you've seen before as well. Flying, Trample, and has Monk Link. All right, so let me know what you guys think. This is a huge video, but there was so much to reveal. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.